Welcome into Around the Felt. The Super Bowl is here. I'm excited, as you can tell. I'm Reagan Loescher, your host, here with my co-host, Mr.
Colin Tom, baby. Let's go. It's Super Bowl week. I'm very excited. I just wish it was two different teams, the ones we got to watch. But, hey, we still got to do our jobs, Reagan, and break down this Super Bowl game.
Yes, sir. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Now, we're not, dude. You know what? I hate that you kind of took on the Eagles as your second team. Not even just this playoff run. It almost felt like it for the whole season because you had them in the Super Bowl preseason and your Jets were chalked right away. I'm most excited for the season to be over and your love of the Eagles out of nowhere to be over. I don't want to hear it anymore.
Out of nowhere. I'm the biggest Jalen Hurts fan out there. I will always support him. He's my ride or die.
You are a big supporter of his.
You know, when people were like, is he even a top half quarterback? I called his breakout. I've been behind that guy. I hate the hate he gets. I'll defend him. And when he gets his first Super Bowl, well, guess what? I'll be right there behind him, giving him a tush push up to the number 2 quarterback in the NFL.
Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy. He will not go up to number 2 in the NFL, even with a win. But I digress, Reagan. We got a lot of news that broke today in the NFL. Myles Garrett has requested a trade out of Cleveland. Wow. I mean, we saw the Luka news come out, the Luka Anthony Davis swap, and the NFL said, no, hold my beer. Myles Garrett's going to request a trade, probably the most valuable defensive player in the league, the reigning defensive player of the year, 4 straight seasons of 14 sacks, an absolute beast. And now people are talking about what the Browns could fetch in a deal. Cleveland said they're not interested in trading him, and even after this request, they still have no interest in trading him. But I can't imagine a team with a disgruntled star, their best player. Myles Garrett will probably hold out. He's probably going to try to force their hand. And whoever trades for him is going to have to give him a fat extension. And there is a good amount of money on the books right now for the next 2 years because the Browns had to constantly restructure and kick the can down the road thanks to their king, Deshaun Watson.
I hate it.
What could a trade for Myles Garrett fetch? I mean, not my. Oh my goodness, the pass rusher Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack had 2 seconds. No, I'm sorry, 2 firsts, and a 5th for him and a second. So that seems like kind of the comp, but I don't know. Some executives are saying there's no way he catches 3 first-round picks. It's probably a 1 and a 2 or a 1 and 2 threes. I don't know. Other executives are saying they'd easily give up 2 first-round picks. I think it'd be at least 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett, but the Browns have to play ball.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I hate it. We did the mock draft pod the other day. If you didn't get a chance to listen to that, go check it out. Me and G cooked with Commissioner Druckdell. So that was, a good pod, but I had the Browns getting Abdul Carter, and that kind of disappoints me because I loved the thought of a Myles Garrett Abdul Carter pairing. So I hope we don't get robbed of that. I mean, if anything, if they do trade Myles Garrett, I like it even more for them to draft him at 2. I think that basically says, hey, they're going to draft him. Where could he go and what will he fetch? I mean, I would think, if Khalil Mack went for that, Myles Garrett is, a better player than Khalil Mack was. I mean, even though Khalil Mack was obviously a beast, I feel like Myles Garrett's still a higher level than him. So, you just really look at all the contenders and stuff, because if you're not a contender, you're not taking on that money. So
yeah, he says he wants to win championships too. He wouldn't be interested in getting moved to a non-contender.
So that that tells me there's a couple different spots. I would think the Browns, obviously, you can rule out the division completely. Because obviously the Ravens kind of do have, and while Kyle Van Noy had a great season, double-digit sacks, I would imagine, he's
not trading in the division. It doesn't matter.
And that's what I'm saying. So he's not going to any of those teams. And then, Trey Hendrickson, TJ Watt, like the other 2 teams, they have a Myles Garrett already. So then I
think Detroit makes sense. I think Chicago makes a lot of sense. I think Washington makes a lot of sense.
Detroit, I would not say makes a lot of sense. They have Aiden Hutchinson. That's great. But
okay.
There's so many. No, I understand, but I don't think they need it. Where I think they need to really load up that defense. It would be great.
What if I told you the Lions had $56 million in cap space?
No, I understand they can make the money work, but if you're the Browns, are you trading Myles Garrett away for 2 those picks are probably going to be 29, 30, 31, or 32. I mean, you're basically trading for essentially 2 early seconds at that point. So is it really worth it? I don't
Yeah, but
think
every
so.
team's going to be a contender. That's because every team in the league
Every
is
team's gonna be a
interested in Myles Garrett,
contender.
obviously, but he's
But if you
also
look
got
at a
to
lot
sign off
there's
on
a
it
difference between contenders, you know what I mean? Like,
because he's going to have to sign an extension. He almost has power in where he's going to go.
no, I understand, but like Washington obviously went on this legendary run. I mean, there's still a world where, they're a first round exit next year. They somehow miss out on the playoffs based on their roster construction. Where you look at Detroit, it's like with how stacked that team is, how deep they are, it's like, how are they not right back in the NFC Championship next year?
I mean, yeah, but
That's just
the
my
Commanders, the Commanders just in the NFC Championship game, and they have a star quarterback. They just took who's on a rookie deal for the next 4 years. They have $82 million in cap space. Like they could still fill a lot of holes and improve their roster. They were just there, So then it's like you just got to take the best deal in terms of draft compensation and not try to project where it's going to be. Like,
well, and I one that's interesting too. I'm going to throw it out there, but the way the Rams are constructed, that would be interesting to me because you have like Matt Stafford, the window's closing with that. You have the young defense where you could be like, all right, let's go, another all-in move. We've seen the Rams do it before. They don't care about picks. Or, hey, maybe you keep a couple picks, but you have such a good young defensive line that you can give up one of those young pieces to the Browns and a pick and then go and acquire Myles Garrett to really help push that forward. Because we saw it, this year, that's a playoff team. They won the division. And obviously, they get to the divisional round against Philadelphia, they lose, but maybe if that doesn't turn into a snow game, that goes differently. So that's a name I'm looking out for in the Rams, just because they have enough young assets where you may be able to hold on to the picks to go get them. I don't know, and I haven't looked at the money to see if they can make it work. I did hear today they're going to move on from Cooper Kupp, which I know we'll get into that in a little bit as well. So I would imagine that would free up some money as well.
Yeah, so to your point, I mean, because the Rams piqued my interest too. So we'll move on to the Rams informing Cooper Kupp today that he will be traded. They are going to work with him to find a destination so he can continue to try to win. Kupp disagrees with the decision. He thought he was going to retire Rams. So you got to feel for the guy there. Obviously won the Super Bowl MVP for them back in 2021 and in the season in which he had the Triple Crown. And I think this is just what they will do financially. They have $40 million cap space right now, Reagan, right? So trading Kupp, the team would have to acquire, I believe it's a little bit over $20 million for next season and then $20 million for 2026. So for an aging player that they clearly have put Puka Nacua into his former role, he's not as important to the offense, and he is like a legend of the franchise, so it sucks. But I understand from a team-building perspective, hey, let's move on from him now. It's probably the best deal we're going to get. He is aging. He's not the same player. We found his replacement in Nacua. Let's try to save another $20 million if we can. Or even if they have to take on some of the money, fine. But with $40 million in cap, you trade Kupp, say you free up 15 this year, right? You eat a little bit of it, whatever. Dude, you're up over 50 million. You can make a move for Myles Garrett. So that does kind of make sense.
Kupp could be the one going to the Browns too. I mean, if you're giving him a young player, one of those young defensive linemen and picks, and the Browns are basically saying we're rebuilding if they trade Myles Garrett. That's the thing. And they could say all they want, but if you get rid of Myles Garrett, that's basically saying we're going in the rebuild mode. It didn't work out with Deshaun Watson. We're going to draft a quarterback, try to get all those big contracts off. We're not going to be good for the next couple of years, but at least, you go and get Cooper Kupp, whatever rookie quarterback they draft potentially, or guy they decide to throw out this year, at least you're helping his development by getting him a Cooper Kupp to pair with a Jerry Jeudy.
Now, a problem with that could be the Browns are $27 million over the cap, so they are in their own troubles. Going back to the point, I know we're going back and forth with the Myles Garrett and the Cooper Kupp, but back to your point on the Browns signifying a rebuild if they do trade Myles Garrett, I agree. I think Abdul Carter makes so much sense at two because you have so much money tied up in Watson, and this isn't a generational quarterback draft where I don't think you have to force a quarterback here if you're signaling a rebuild. But I did see insiders in the league saying, oh, if they do trade Garrett, it does signify a rebuild. They're going to go quarterback at two. The Giants are going to get squeezed out of getting a quarterback. And I'm like, I don't know. I kind of thought it was like, let's take his replacement in Abdul Carter and just build up this roster more. Is kind of the route I was thinking. But if they are going full rebuild, do you take a young quarterback? You have Watson, so you don't have to play him right away.
Yeah, it's interesting because then it's like if you're going full rebuild, like, doesn't a young edge rusher really push the needle? No, but then if you suck, then maybe you're taking a quarterback next year. So it's hard, especially with a generational talent like Carter. So it's a tough pill to swallow. I would think, on the AFC side, taking out the division. I mean, I don't know about Buffalo's money, but that would be a great trade for them. That's a move you can do to really push Kansas City in the AFC, where it's like, what's the guy that can put us over? They'd have to figure out a way to make the money work, but that would be a team I'd love to see try to get Myles Garrett to make that work.
Reagan, do you know who the Browns quarterback was in 2016? I'm trying to think. I'm like, they took Myles Garrett number 1 in the 2017 draft. Trubisky went 2. You had Mahomes go 10.
Was in 2016.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Myles Garrett's rookie year, you're saying?
Yeah, no, who was their quarterback the year before when they picked first overall? I'm just trying to remember.
Deshaun Kaiser, I believe.
Because they took Garrett number 1. They passed on Trubisky.
Deshaun Kaiser?
They passed on Mahomes. They passed on Watson. So I'm thinking, is this a similar situation where let's just take the best player and not take a quarterback? But now I'm second guessing myself. Who was their quarterback in 2016?
No, I'm sorry. They took Deshaun Kaiser the same year. They took Deshaun Kaiser in round 2 of 2017. So his rookie year was the same year as Myles Garrett. So close. I will look it up right now.
Cody Kessler, is that right?
No, there's no way it was Cody Kessler.
Cody Kessler, it sounds familiar. No, he's right. I mean, Cody Kessler. Yeah, it was Cody Kessler. Shut the fuck up. Good job, Drock.
It's just it's crazy.
ChatGPT, baby.
Oh yeah, Josh McCown. A little bit of Josh McCown and RG3 too. They had 3 different guys. That was the year Hugh Jackson. They won 1 game.
They passed on a quarterback to take the generational pass rusher. Now, Abdul Carter is not the same level of prospect as Garrett. He's in that elite tier, but Garrett, I think, is kind of consensus the number 1 pass rushing prospect to come out in decades, right? So, but they have done it before. Yeah. We've seen the organization. Now, I understand new management. We've seen
I was going to say it's a completely different GM.
Yeah, it's a completely different regime, but we have seen the franchise pass on a quarterback to take the dominant pass rusher. So I just thought that was interesting. And maybe they do it again, right? When Garrett leaves, they take another pass rusher.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I mean, I love these hypotheticals. I mean, it also could be funny. I mean, it also could completely work itself out where they're able to, fix it, and they come to him with a plan of hey, this is our draft strategy. This is what we're planning. And maybe it works out. And, we're looking back at this and we're hey, this hypothetical talk before the Super Bowl that we took 10 minutes on was meaningless.
Or maybe he's no, I will never play another snap for you because I know your quarterback's going to be Deshaun Watson and we're never going to win with this guy. Or that. Back to Cooper Kupp, Reagan. What are some destinations that make sense in your mind? He's going to go to a competitor.
It's got to be a competitor. I would think away.
The Commanders might make sense.
Yeah, that's going to be the hot name for a lot of teams because you look at it and you're look, we need to get Jaden Daniels another weapon. You look at the championship game and you're there's no world where a 35-year-old Zach Ertz should be your leading receiver. And I know the Eagles had a good game plan and a good scheme, but you add in another dynamic pass catcher alongside Terry McLaurin and you can alleviate that. So right away, I like that. I don't. New England, I like a lot just because New England has all that money. It would really help Drake May's development. They got a lot of young receivers in that room, so it's hey, we're getting a guy that knows how to play with the best quarterbacks, one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in our generation, in Matthew Stafford. He'll help Drake May develop, and we know for a fact they have over $100 million in cap space, so they can make the money work. So
I agree. That makes sense, but I don't think Cooper Kupp's going to prove a trade to go play for a team that's picking 4th overall. You know what I mean?
I don't know, though, because it's Mike Vrabel, dude. I feel it's a team picking 4th overall with a lot of cap space, a promising young rookie, and a proven head coach that's, really turned around that Tennessee franchise quick. So, I really do think, call me crazy, but I think New England, could be last year's Washington, where they have a good free agency, they have a good draft, and they're really pushing for a wild card in the AFC in year 2 of Drake May.
I could see it. What about the Chargers? He stays in LA, just goes across town. They got $65 million in cap space.
I don't like that
receiver.
I don't like it though, because Ladd's your guy. He's going to play in the slot. Like, do you want to move Cooper Kupp to the outside full time? Like, yeah, he can do it. It'll help, but I don't know. To me, I feel like he wants to go somewhere where he could be the slot. I could see Houston, because we imagine Stephon Diggs is going to leave, because I know he was on the last year of his deal, and I don't think he'll go back. So I could see that they can make the money work.
What about Detroit? Could they do another deal? LA and Detroit? Detroit's got $56 million cap space somehow. I don't know how the hell they have that much money with the roster.
They have so many young guys, bro. Think about it. I mean,
they paid Goff, but they got so many dudes on.
Think
rookie
about
deals.
All the guys. Yeah, you got Gibbs, you got Campbell, you got the most secondary. Is Hutchinson Hutchinson is still on his rookie deal as well.
Yeah.
But
Kupp kind of makes sense in that time frame where if you have him for 2 years, then you let him go, and that's kind of when you got to start paying your stars that are on the rookie deals. I think the time frame kind of makes sense there.
Yeah. No, it does.
Pittsburgh, maybe? I think Pittsburgh could be a destination. Dallas is certainly a destination.
Dallas would be
somehow
cool.
Dallas is $2 million over the cap. It's crazy. They got to pay. They got to pay Parsons.
Cap to me, that doesn't matter because these guys are so good with the cap. Like, they'll make it work. Like, they always do. Like, if a contender really wants a guy, like, they'll figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
So that doesn't scare me that they're $2 million over. Like, if Cooper Kupp was like, I want to be a Dallas Cowboy, like, you think Dak Prescott and like Jerry Jones and all those guys are like, nah, we don't want him. Like, they'll figure out a way to make it work.
I think Dallas make a lot of sense, man. I think that's a good one too. I mean, there's a lot of potential, but we'll see, man. The Rams tell Cooper Kupp, we're done with you. Thank you for your service. So it's the world that these athletes live in.